what we're going to look at today is the persecution of ethnic minorities in the Soviet Union. So to begin with, we're going to look at early policies towards ethnic minorities, particularly in the time of Lenin, before Stalin. So the Soviet Union was a huge multi-ethnic nation. Its population was about 147 million at the time of the 1917 revolution. There was a census which was issued in 1926, and this listed 180 different nationalities in the Soviet Union. And Lenin had looked at this. He'd looked at how to deal with ethnic minorities. It was outlined in the Declaration of the Rights of the Peoples of Russia decree after the 1917 revolution. And this promised ethnic minorities a number of things. Firstly, promised them equal treatment, which they had not received under the Russification policies in Tsarist Russia. It offered them self-government if they wanted it, so they would be given autonomy, they would be given freedom to leave the Soviet Union if they so wanted. They would be granted a freedom of religion, interesting given what happened to the Russian Orthodox Church. They would have the right to develop their own culture and lifestyle, something again which wasn't offered to the different nationalities in Tsarist Russia under that Russification policy which I mentioned a few moments ago. And finally, they could leave the Soviet Union if they wanted to be independent. So these early Soviet policies towards ethnic minorities see the communists act in a way which was very different from the Tsars. They didn't want to treat minority groups in the same way that the old Tsar had, that had just created too many resentments. So they wanted to stay as far away as possible from Russification, where basically all of the smaller national groups were forced to embrace the Russian way of life, the Russian church, the Russian language, and so on. So the Soviet Union, or the communists, wanted to reflect the unique political structure of the Soviet Union. So the 15 largest national groups, such as Russians, the Ukrainians, the Belarusians, the Armenians, the Georgians, which is of course where Stalin is from, formed the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So all of these republics were declared equal. So Georgia, Russia, Ukraine, they become a Soviet. And each one was declared equal as far as the Soviet Union was concerned, although Russia was undoubtedly the most powerful. Minority populations in each republic were formed into smaller self-governing bodies. So Russia was divided itself into 30 different national territories. So the party spoke about the Soviet Union as a family of nations. The different national groups in the Soviet Union would govern themselves. They would be given that freedom, that autonomy, but together they would come together and form one country, the USSR or the Soviet Union. So in the 1920s, each nationality was encouraged, and they were encouraged to celebrate their own culture. As we'll see, this changes massively under Stalin. So schools, books, newspapers used local languages. They didn't necessarily have to use Russian as they did before and as they will under Stalin. And local leaders were trained up, and they were given roles within party and government.